everybody's names up? Yes. So April and Candace, I chose you all to come on here. Obviously, you're my two friends, but most importantly, you inspire me. You probably don't even know this part, but you should. You know, I've been friends with both of you over 20 something years, but you've made very courageous decisions throughout your life around money, around your careers, around just the journey of financial, what I call freedom. And that's a very cliche and sexy word. And I hate these trendy words, but it's one that's true to me. And I believe it's true to both of you. And that's the way I want to start the conversation. What does financial freedom mean to you? And throughout the conversation, we'll be having a very organic conversation, because on I Am, this truly is about young ladies understanding that it's a journey. And I love to have women come on, and men ultimately sometimes, but right now just ladies come on and share their story, because I believe testimony based on my upbringing and just stories is healing. It inspires and it encourages people. So just be as organic, as raw. There's nothing off limits. And I'll be asking the questions that I sent to you prior on your email, but also just some things that may come from the heart or soul as we have the conversation. So I'd like to start off and just welcome you to the platform, and no particular order, but who'd like to share, what does financial freedom mean to you?
I mean, I can go, I don't mind. Well, John V, you inspire me as well. Candace, you did too. So just wanted to say that, point blank. But financial freedom, financial freedom to me means your income exceeds your expenses. This point blank period is no other way. I mean, residual income exceeds your expenses. Like, you don't have to personally get up and work every day to make your lifestyle or your living expenses met. In a nutshell, that's what it means to me. What about you, Candace?
Yes. So I would say financial freedom to me means being in a position to do all the things that you want to do that's extra. So you have your basic needs met, which your basic need is housing, water, shelter, living, those types of things. You have those things met, but now you get to do extra things. You want to be able to give money to organizations or charitable functions or anything like that. You have that extra means and capacity to be able to do that, but you can also travel, you can also save, you can do a lot more things when you have a little bit more of the financial freedom that everybody's looking for.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's a journey. Yeah,
it is.
It's a journey. And so with those things being said, so I have to go too early, because I Am is geared towards ladies in their 20s. And of course, I knew both of you throughout your 20s. And there's two major things. I'm going to start with Candace that I know you did. I remember like yesterday when you were working at ITT Tech, I believe, and you quit. And never look back. And I mentioned Julian, that's my husband, but we talked, he knows my friends. And that's one of the things he said, Candace is one of the only people that we know. And we say this, a lot of people do real estate, but did real estate and never look back. And it has become her full-time income. So can you share a little bit on that journey, Candy, and how it led you there? I'm sorry, I call her Candy. But Candy, how did that work out for you? And how did you make that move to even just say, I'm not looking back?
Okay, well, I want to make a correction. So I didn't actually quit from ITT Tech. I got let go, terminated. That some people might say you got fired. But it was okay. The biggest thing is that I'll never forget. So my boss's boss, I don't even remember her name right now, but I remember my old boss's name, but my boss's boss is the one who let me go. And I'll never forget. She asked me straight face to face, eye to eye. And she said, I know that this is going to be hard to process. And I just want to know, are you going to be okay? And, I sat there for a second and I looked back at her and I said, yes. I said, I'm going to be perfectly fine. I said, because all my help and everything that I need is provided from the Lord. And I think that no matter what you have to do, when you have to pivot in life, that was a pivoting moment. I could have said, you know what, I'm going to keep going and stay in corporate America or look for another job for extra income. But at that moment, I said, no, I'm going to be fine. I had been selling real estate at that point for about 7 years, part-time. And I said, well, let's just go in here and just see what we can do and just step out on faith. I think that when you have to pivot in life like that, you have a choice. And so when you're at that fork in the road and you can either go right or you can go left, you got to make a decision. But you have to have, I'm a spiritual person, so I have to have God first to help me know, okay, I can do this with him by my side. And I didn't know how things were going to turn out. So when it came down to making that decision, I just decided, you know what, let's just step out on faith. Let's do what my passion is, what I like to do. I like selling houses. I like being around people, negotiating contracts, helping people obtain their dream. So I think that because housing is a basic need, everybody deserves to get an adequate home to either live in to purchase, or an adequate home to either live in to rent. So I just stepped out there and did that, and I haven't looked back and haven't gone back into corporate America. So I'm thankful that God has provided every step of the way. And yes, it's not easy when you decide to go into business by yourself and for yourself, and you don't have somebody that's just giving you all this financial backing. But my friends like you guys, my boyfriend, family members have always cheered me on and have been a good support for me. And so sometimes you just need that cheerleader in your head or on your shoulder, just helping you keep pushing forward. So I definitely say that, when you have the choice to pivot and go left or go right, you weigh out your options. You think about, what lies ahead. And I'm not telling people to just step out and do a business and not have a plan. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that if you know that you want to step out and go from transition from corporate America into just entrepreneurship 100%, bills don't stop because you chose not to leave. You chose to not work in corporate America anymore. You need to have a plan of savings of, it's probably going to take a few months for you to get your footings and stuff like that. So you need to have a plan that if I don't work for 3 months, 6 months, a year, can I pay my bills? What am I going to do? So thankfully, I had some of that savings already set aside. And so I was able to.
You've always been a saver.
Yeah.
I'll say that for the record.
Tap on savings. We are. Candy, I do want to interject because we are going to come back to that. But I do want to ask you, what year was that you got fired and you didn't look bad?
That was in 2015. Yeah.
So 2015. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that. We will tap on that savings, of course. That's where it starts. So AP, how about you? So I asked Candace that there are several things for you. Yours is most recent. You retired last week.
Mm-hmm. I did. I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Traditional retire, which is walk away from corporate America, which Candace to me retired back in 2015.
Yeah. Right.
Walk away from your passion. I mean, not passion, but that route. So AP, your journey on that in particular, what gave you the courage to write that and what prepared you for that? Because you didn't do that just by, let me walk away from this. And I know real estate was a part of your journey.
Yeah, definitely real estate was a part of my journey. Well, I said young that I always wanted to retire when I was young. So, but I never knew how, so I just always knew, well, I knew real estate was one of the ways that you could leverage my money. I've always been really cheap. I've always tried to control a large asset with a little bit of money. And real estate is just one of the ways you can do that. So it led me there. But of course, I went all around in circles trying to find other ways to invest. And I had money to invest. I was ready. I had the opportunity. No, let's say this. I was ready financially, but the opportunity wasn't there. And then it was times where the opportunity was there and I wasn't ready. So I just had to make sure I was prepared when the opportunity came. You know what I'm saying? I just had to really strive on doing that. And I bought my first house when I was 23 and I sold it in 2020. So that's what really put me in the position to be where I am now. and I retired. And when I sold that one house, I said, okay, I'm gonna buy me 2 houses and a boat with this. And I actually bought 3. So I made sure that I made use of that money. Like I said, I've had money before and I blew it and I didn't invest like I was supposed to. So I wanted to make sure that I learned from my past mistakes and did the right thing this time and put me in a position to, again, where my income exceeds my expenses. And just like Candace said, with financial freedom, your expenses is what you make them be. And I always try to minimize your expenses because I do like to travel. So I made sure when I retired that I had an expense for travel. I had an expense for Ross. I got a Rossaholic budget, please believe. Okay. So with certain things that I know I like to do and I want to still maintain that lifestyle when I was able to walk away from corporate. So I just laid a list of all my bills out and everything that I like to do. I like to get pedicures every 3 weeks, everything that I know I like to do. And I just said, okay, this is my number. This is the number that I need. And if I exceed this number, then I can walk away. And that's what I did. And I did take an income cut. I'm not going to lie. I did take an income cut, but I have free time. Right. Because I'm pretty sure at some point, like even when I start my boat tours or whatever I want to do, it can exceed that income. But yes, for now, I did take an income cut. And I'm okay with that. Because like I said, I don't need, I hate to be one of them persons say I don't need a lot of money, but I really don't. Because as long as I can do what I want to do and have my lifestyle met, then I'm good. I don't need a whole lot of money.
Do you mind sharing what the number you walked away from?
At Gulfstream, I was making, I think, like 150,000. So I was making 150,000 there. So it was a good salary. But when I tell you, like the last year, my goal was to just live off only my rental income and just save all of my salary. So I was really almost able to do that. Of course, I was blowing money here and there just because you know you got it. But that's again, when I realized I don't need all of this money. I really don't even need $150,000 to be honest, because my expenses are so low. But I needed to just be able to travel. I need my bills to be paid. I need to be able to save, and I need to be able to maintain my homes that I have. So, and my things that I like to do. So, yeah. So, I mean, I walked away from it, but again, I'm sure at some point, not now my business income exceeds that, but I'm just saying combined, I was making, of course, over 200, 300, a lot. So, I won't be making that anymore, but I still, I'll be comfortable.
Yes.
That's awesome.
It is. Thank you both ladies on that one. Now, I think you both hit on this and then we'll tap into this on savings. But one of the questions I did send you prior, in your 20s, what is one seed you planted that you're enjoying the fruit from today? And I believe it can be repetitive what you said. You just share the answer, but what's the seed? Because I think that's very important. That's the point of your 20s, how important that decade, I call it the defining decade. You got to plant those seeds because you're reaping that fruit and you're enjoying it now. So what's one thing both of you feel like you planted in your 20s? And it could be anything. You can take a moment to think about it. It could come from your story you just shared, but you planted and you're reaping the fruit from today.
I'll go ahead and go with that. So one thing that I did do in my 20s was to get some insurance. And I know we don't think about, insurance, and I've never been one that was always health insured, but I've always been life insured. And so, and I'm not per se reaping the benefits of that insurance now, but what I am thankful for is I had a conversation with another real estate agent who told me that she took her cash value from her life insurance policy, and she took that money and she ended up purchasing some real estate with it. So she basically became her own lender. She borrowed against her own policy. And she said that if something were to happen to her, her family wouldn't get the life insurance policy that, because she's basically used it, they wouldn't get the benefits of that. But now they have that property that now they can leverage and choose to sell. And then, it's worth way more than what that life insurance policy was worth. So, so I like the fact that I did get a couple different types of policies in my 20s, one that does have cash values, and knowing that if I, want to take the option to do something like that, that's an option that I can do. I can then become my own bank because I'm lending from myself. So I think that, getting insurance when you're younger, one, it's
cheaper.
So yes, it's cheaper for you to do it. Typically, you're in better health when you're younger. You meet the guidelines of the weight and the height and all of that. Then as you get older, you know, your body changes, your health may deteriorate. So then therefore insurance could be a lot higher. So so definitely taking advantage of getting properly insured during your early years and have the longer term, you know, policies in place is key. So that's important.
Thank you, genius. I mean, great tip to share, not talked about a lot, but that is so true. I appreciate you sharing that, Candy. So much to elaborate and unpack tonight. Y'all, I just thank God for you guys. I thank God for this moment because these are the life-changing conversations that I hope one person, that whoever's watching this, you get something if you just take that alone.
Right.
It's so much to unpack, but you know, take what we're saying, take what's being said on these calls from these two ladies, do the research, it's there. All of this is their journey, their stories, but you can Google this stuff. You can Google the best insurance, life insurance policy, all this stuff, but it's just things that you may not have never heard of because maybe your family just hasn't opened that conversation up, and that's okay.
Right, right.
I am is for to have not hard, but uncomfortable maybe topics or conversations that we may have never talked about and explored them. So thank you for that, Candy. All right, April, what's one of your seeds, honey, in 20s that you're reaping now?
Well, just like I was saying in the story before, I bought my first home when I was 23. So when I bought that at 23, and again, I wasn't really thinking about buying a house, to be honest. I had just graduated from college, had my first job, and I was living with my dad still. And I was like, well, guess I'll go looking for apartments today. And he was just like, why not just buy a house? And I was just like, I guess. I mean, I had never thought about it. You know, when you're young, you really don't think about buying a house, whatever. So I was like, okay. So I bought that house, and I'm so glad I listened to him. And it, like I said, today, that's what put me in a position to where I am right now. So just thankful that I had that guidance telling me to do that, because I really wouldn't have never thought of that at that age. So I'm just.
I lived in that house. I lived in her house. I lived in Candace's house. You know my story. I was going back home. So, but
and your family. So
that's right.
Your home is with me too.
Yes, I have over there. And to that point, I want to ask you, Candace, because I know you have, and this is another thing, and even this goes to what April's talking about. You had a home, your family, that you could be staying in right now, probably rent-free. And a lot of people say, oh, and I know people, I just actually had a conversation with someone, house in the family. They live in it, they stay in it. Even you, April, you could have gotten that house, probably had a very low mortgage. What makes you chase? And we're not talking chase money, but what makes you chase? What drives you to say, okay, I'm not settling just sitting here in this home? Why didn't you stay in your family home, Candy? In one way, you could have been better off, maybe. I don't know. Although I don't think so, but you know what I mean? What makes you not get comfortable in those situations? And explain that, what I'm saying, because they don't know, but I know that you had a house. April, you had a house and you chose to rent it instead of leaving. Why did you leave? I mean, not stay. So both of them, to your point, you had both had rental properties that they left.
Right. So my background is my parents died when I was young, and you know, my parents were fortunate enough, thank God, that they saw the value in home ownership, and so they purchased the property. So when they passed, that inheritance of that home passed on to me and to my brother. And he ended up buying a house, and he was like, you know, Candace, do whatever you want to do, stay as long as you need to stay. And then when you choose to leave, then we'll talk about it and make decisions from there. So I stayed at that property for a really long time. And I was thankful for that opportunity, because I did live, you know, mortgage rent free. I've never been a renter ever in my whole life. You know, and so I own property now, multiple properties, and I do rent. And so I treat my renters how I would want to be treated if I was a renter. And some people think that business model is a little flawed, because, you know, you should be maximizing on your rents and stuff like that. But I say that if I make the property look the way that I want it to look, the way that I'm comfortable with, then I'll get somebody hopefully that will respect the property, that'll want to be like me. I think the biggest reason that I left my childhood home was because I needed a change of scenery. You know, you get to a place where you want something different. I wanted a little bit bigger of a house. I wanted to live in a different area that I could walk to, the local brewery, walk to the park, with my dog, and walk to, we have like food truck Fridays here, like the first Fridays of the month. Now I have not walked to the food truck Fridays, but I can.
You will this Friday.
Right, right. So, things like that. I wanted to be close to amenities and attractions that were going on in the city. So I moved like 8 minutes down the street from my old house, so I'm not far. And I'm able to rent out the childhood home and and get residual income from that. And so that's been a huge blessing, in that regards. But I think the biggest thing is I wanted a change of scenery. However, one thing I would like to just mention, Jonville, is that, because I sell real estate too, and sometimes in a market when you're looking, you can't find what you're really looking for. And so I always tell people, don't be afraid to pivot. So my very first purchase as a first-time buyer was not to purchase the home that I currently live in. I purchased an investment property, and I purchased a multifamily property, and I did that one, because it was in the location of where I really wanted to have real estate, because I love the area. I love older houses. And so I did buy off of emotion. That may not be the best thing to do at all times, is buying off of emotion, but doing your research on location and the trends of what's coming into the area, because then that can help, okay, the values are moving up just because of the location. So I did buy on location, and I did buy a multifamily property, and that was my first purchase, and it was a rental. So I transitioned from property that was parents' home to buying an investment property, and then I purchased my property that I live in currently, and now I have those multiple rental opportunities.
Can I say something really quick, Candace, and put your business out there really quick? But just only as a strategy. I just wanted to say, because I know your strategy, you actually use your childhood home, you use the equity out of that house to buy your multifamily house. And that's a strategy that a lot of people don't know and don't tap into, but that's a really good way to leverage your assets. You use one home, the equity in that home, to purchase another asset and to purchase another asset. And it's just never ending assets and equity. So I just wanted to say that really quick, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I did. So that was the other thing. So I had saved up a big chunk of money, because I knew that I was looking for a home to live in, and I knew that the price point that I was wanting to purchase in, I was going to need to bring that down in order for it to be a comfortable number. So the banks always give you a number that they say is the number you can afford. And yes, on paper, you can afford that. And it should be comfortable on paper, but everybody got their own budget that they should have. Right. Outside of what the bank tells you. So I knew that when the bank said one thing, I knew what my own personal comfort level is. So I saved up a chunk of money. And when that property came on the market, I was not in position to get a commercial loan, because my property has more than 4 units in it. And so in the United States, if it has more than 4 units, it has to go commercial. And not everybody can get a commercial loan as a new investor. And I wasn't really going to do a, hard money loan, and I wasn't interested in partnering and all of that. I know some people talk about all of that, but I wasn't interested in that. So what I did do was leverage the home that was my childhood home that was mortgage free. And I pulled out equity from that property. And then I was able to couple that with my cash and, make this purchase. So again, real estate can help you put yourself in a different trajectory for creating and building wealth.
She better share her website in a minute.
She
feel like she's giving a bitch.
She's coming on at a different time. Candace will be back. This platform is not going anywhere. We're just starting out, and right. I can tap into. I have so many levels, and it's too much. It's hard. That's why I'm just here tonight.
It is a lot.
Financial freedom, the journey. But yeah, she's a real estate agent, and so many ladies have questions already about real estate, and she's the one. So she'll be back. But I'll definitely in the link put her contact information on real estate, because there you go. And both of them, any questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer around their journeys, their story. But yes, to real estate we will be. She's licensed in South Carolina and North Carolina. Or where, Candy?
Yes. Yeah, South and North Carolina.
Okay, but that's another conversation. All right. Now, April, to the question, which was, why did you choose to leave your property in Fort Mill?
Okay. But during that time, I actually, my job had closed down too. I had got laid off, and we was in Fort Mill, and I was really just looking for other. Well, I really wasn't looking. Honestly, my job closed down, and actually I had lost my boyfriend around the same time, so I was just looking for other areas to move. Honestly, just to start over fresh. So I had got a job offer in Atlanta or whatever, and it was more money. So I took it. And then I was like, long as I can rent this house out, then I'm gonna leave or whatever. And I rented it out and had a little bit of income. So I left. But the question, I think, was what drives you to, keep going or whatever. It's just because because I told you I wanted to retire at 40 or whatever. And I knew as long as I was working for somebody else, I knew I wasn't at my goal. So I knew there was still work to do, and I needed to, again, be in a position because I wasn't making a lot of money, even at that time when I moved to Atlanta. So I still wasn't in a position to kind of make the moves that I wanted. I still was just saving, and just driving until I knew I met that goal. And I just had to manifest it and just keep telling myself, even though I probably didn't even see a way to get it then, I knew that at some point that it would be, it would be mine. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, ladies, on that. Now I have a question, piggyback off what we just said, and then I have one more, and I'm not gonna hold y'all more than the hour. We have 30 minutes left, but so I want to interject this question, which wasn't something I asked, but I do think about this a lot because I do reflect on my life, my friendships. These are two very close friendships of mine that I've had over the years and cultivated. Like I said, they inspire me. And, I have been studying classes and just what middle class is, lower class. And this is just these terms that you hear growing up, but now I'm in a place in my life where I'm just like, what does this stuff mean? And when I look at my friendships, I'm like, okay, you two would be two ladies that I feel like, would you think growing up, you would be considered middle class, your family overall? And to that point, what do you think as middle, because I think it's a mindset. The mindset that you two definitely, I feel like have, and we all three have, which were just simple things like all of us we knew friends that were getting their nails and hair laid every week. And we probably did too, but I don't think I started getting a full pedicure and manicure till I was 33, maybe 35, and I'm 39. So, and it wasn't that I couldn't at times, but it was just, that was not a priority for me. Name brands, the three of us, we've never been into that. Like the idea of labels and name brands. And again, not knocking anybody's choices, but these are choices that I do feel like puts us in a different position. And when I do reflect on that, and there's a book that we share on our program, The Wealth Choice and The Psychology of Money. These books talk about this mindset and how the wealth thinks differently, of course, than lower, middle, and ultimately the upper and the wealthier, the upper class. So to that point, I want to ask you too, what do you feel like has been raised the way you were middle class, that mindset? What would you think some ingredients maybe that made you think differently about money? I didn't necessarily struggle to have things. So when I got older, I didn't seek like, oh my God, I gotta have. So for me, that's my background. But because again, I think about these things. Why do I make choices versus the next person, or why do they make these choices that inspire me? So what do you think influenced yourself the most? Even I do speak to the middle class because I think that's important. When you know other people in different classes, or even the wealthier, higher class or upper class that inspires you, or what seeds were planted for you to make those choices around money, your mindset around money.
You want me to go first? You want to go first, Candace? No matter.
You can go.
Okay. Well, one of the things that the mindset that changed me, honestly, growing up, I did see my dad work hard. He always had two jobs and he worked a lot. And I always had the instill hard work or whatever. But one thing that changed the total trajectory of my path, I'm not going to lie, one book. I read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki. It talks about money, and the way he just talks about it, I never looked at it the same. Like how he talks about everything that you buy is either an asset or liability, and the asset's going to put money in your pocket and the liability is going to take money out. So just those two things, anytime I buy something, I ask myself, is this an asset or is a liability? And I just try to focus myself on buying more assets than liabilities. And a lot of times people will think that your own house that you live in is an asset. Sometimes it is if you use it right, but it takes money out of your pocket. It don't put money in your pocket. So that's almost a liability if you think about it from that perspective. So I've just always just tried to focus on obtaining more assets, more assets, more assets. Anytime I buy something, I say I'm gonna find a way to make it pay for itself. You know, even when I bought the boat, that was an asset, but it could be a liability if it's sitting out there doing nothing. But when I do the boat tours, that's gonna become an asset because it's gonna make me money. You know, so all the houses that I bought, they've made me money. It's not a liability. So that's what kind of shift my mindset. And of course, my parents as well, because my dad's always talked about saving money. And, but you know, some of our parents definitely have that old mindset too, where they want to work to 65 and retire. And I just knew that wasn't for me. So just seeing my dad work like that and retire at 65, I just knew I wanted something different. And I was just like, yeah, 65 ain't gonna cut it for me. So I'm gonna have to find another way. So that's really where my mindset came from and how it developed into what it is now.
That's awesome.
So for me, I definitely have to credit my mom. You know, so my mom was an educator here, and she told us so many different things about money. I mean, she didn't know everything. Like, she didn't talk to us about stocks and, you know, mutual funds and stuff like that. But what she did talk about was, one, how to balance your checkbook. Two, you need to save money, and you always need to have money for a rainy day. And three, she always said, it doesn't matter how many bills you have, you make sure you pay your creditors on time, because you need to be a good steward of your money. That's a principle in the Bible as well. So she was just saying that if you go out here and you open up a credit card, that bank is expecting you to be a good steward of what they've given you so that you can go out here and get whatever it is you want. You need to make sure that you pay your bills on time. And so that has been a principle in my mind, even when I have had times where I didn't have a job. I made sure that those bills were paid, because I always had a little bit of savings. So I always would just skimp and do what I need to do to put those coins together to make sure that those minimum payments are paid. And I'll never forget that there was a time where I didn't have the money. Creditors do not want to see you default. So you can pick up the phone. You can call your creditors. You can tell them, hey, I've lost my job. I'm in the process of looking for a job. And if they see that you have a track record that you have paid your bills on time, they usually will be willing to give you some type of a stay. They might be willing to lower your payments. I mean, I've gotten all kinds of stuff. And I'll never forget, I had a car payment, didn't even know that this particular car payment that I had with the credit union, they had what's called gap insurance built into my payment. That gap insurance would have kicked in had I known my full benefits, would have kicked in and paid my car payments while I was out of work. So knowing what you have and knowing the different types of insurances that you have and things of that nature, that can help you when you do have a rough patch in your life. It's not a matter of if you're gonna have a rough patch, it's a matter of when. Life happens. And so you just need to be prepared, you know, at least have, I would say at least 3 months at minimum of savings. So that way, if anything happens, at least you can, you know, pay 3 months worth of bills in 3 months, unless you are disabled. In 3 months, you should be able to pick up a job. And that might mean, yes, you're doing something that you don't want to do. But, you know, you can pick that job up. But my mom, you know, that was something that she instilled, and I live by that principle. You pay your bills on time, and you pay that creditor, because you need to be a good steward of your money.
Sorry, my girl's going crazy on the down there with Julie, and I was texting him. But I love that, just a good old fashioned. And I like that you made, and you said that even with April, you said just basic, pay your bills on time. That's truly where it starts. Save. You use that a lot, April, save. And that's what it is, being a steward of our money. And that's just really where it starts. So I want to end on that point of savings, because we've already just unpacked so much. And I really appreciate you ladies coming on here, just answering the questions around the different pathways, the left, the right turns, your own personal journey. But I want to go, I'm trying to find my question, because I think I had one about savings, but if not, I want to just ask, I know what you said, 3 months. We talk about an emergency fund. Dave Ramsey is one of my favorite. Of course, he's very I think you too, Candy.
I follow him too. Yeah.
Yeah, he like him. I know Snowball. You did his credit card, Snowball. Didn't you do his credit card method?
Yeah,
Snowball?
yeah, definitely. I didn't follow it to a T because he says take your smallest debt so that you can get rewards. So people sometimes need a mental reward. So he says
the
take
largest.
right. I took the largest too.
I
And
did.
because I looked at it as, the largest one had the most amount of money that was coming out of my pocket.
Yes.
So I said, if I can get rid of that debt, then now I can take what I was paying there and then go now to a smaller
Right.
debt and knock
Right.
it out. I did
Same
do it a
thing.
little bit differently, but his method does work.
Yes. And again, because of financial literacy, that's one of our courses we teach and talk about. I point them to those things, but the basics on credit cards, on savings. But I want
know
to
that.
keep on savings because this is still in, I want to get your opinion, your journey. When Candace, you saved enough to put a down payment on your property, and then you combine that with your equity. April, you saved, or did you not? You haven't mentioned how did your saving journey, I want to start with you, April, your saving journey start to put you in a position to make a major move? Were you saving? I know me and you would take trips, it would be $20. I mean, those pennies added up, but where did y'all both develop those seeds of greatness? Jim Rohn, one of my favorite, he said, if you can't save 10% of your money, then the seeds of greatness is just not in you. And even if it's not 10%, I just stress, I don't care if it's every week, you got to be disciplined with $5. So where did y'all start on your savings journey? Because what would you tell the 20-year-old something listening to this call, the 30-year-old, 40-year-old person who that's a big piece. A lot of people struggle so much with just saving. So where would you tell them to start and how?
Well, I can honestly say at 20s, it was hard to save. I mean, I was barely making enough money to even pay my bills, to be honest. I had to work overtime just to be able to save money, whatever. But I always tried to make a mindset or keep a motto of always save more than I spend. You know what I'm saying? So like as soon as I got paid, I would always have a certain amount going to my savings account. Now, again, it was times where I had to take it back out of my savings account, but I always had a certain amount going to my savings account. I had a certain amount going to my bill account. And then so I knew how much I had left over, and I just always tried to make sure that I always save more than I spent. Like, again, in my 20s, it was harder to do that. I'm not going to lie, but as I got older, and as you do get older, you will have more with disposable income. So when I start having more disposable income, I still put myself on a very strict budget. Like literally, I'm talking about like $300 a week. Like after all my bills paid.
I want to interject because I know, because it's the truth of, again, when we're mentor, we're going back to what the truth is. You still had a mindset around savings, because even in your 20s, everyone talked about, we'd be at checking out, you had a mindset around savings, even though you may not have been saving. So don't downplay. In your 20s, you couldn't save what you were saving in your 30s because your income was different.
That's true. That's true. I did have that. Like I said, and then my dad was a finance major. He did major in a business, and he had a finance thing. So he always instilled in me in saving or whatever. I mean, all the time, like when I just would get paid, I just always knew just to save a little bit, Like I said, even if I didn't have it always to save, I knew that at some point I can always go back to that savings account if I needed it. You know what I'm saying?
Sacrifice. I mean, where would you put sacrifice in there with saving? Do you think of sacrifice when you think of saving?
Yeah, I guess, because I mean, again, like when you're young, your mindset, when you get $100 check, you just want to blow it all as $100. You know what I'm saying? You don't think about, let me put $10 back or $20 back, because you just want to get what you want to get. So you do have to be somewhat disciplined or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like, yeah, you can buy what you want now, but you never know what you may need later or whatever. So it's always again, save for a rainy day type of thing or whatever. So I didn't even realize that, but I guess I have always been saving since I was young. I used to save my lunch money. I ain't gonna lie, hands down. My daddy used to give me $5 a day. I used to save $2.50, and I used to spend $2.50 on food. And then at the end of the week, maybe that's where it came from. Because you know what, my allowance was only $20. Let me tell you this, you know what? That's probably where it came from. My allowance was only $20 a week, and I didn't have enough to buy an outfit. I wanted to buy an outfit every week. So I had $10 left for my lunch money and $20 with my allowance. So that was $30. And that was enough to buy me an outfit, a shirt or something. And to this day, it's still, if I spent over $30 for an outfit, it costs too much. It's weird, right?
30.
So it came from that. I saved my lunch money. I ain't gonna lie. So
that's what I was trying to tap into, because I think sometimes we downplay, but when you really think about the journey, this stuff really comes from us as a child, whatever that passion, like Candace used that term, whatever it is, it comes from as a child, it grows, and develops and blossoms as an adult, but really now I have other goals. My goal might have been a shirt. Now my goal is a house.
It definitely was a shirt. Or some earrings, girl. Okay.
Right, so Candy, how about you, honey?
Let me come off mute. My little fur baby was going bananas.
Mine too.
So in my 20s, and I'm glad that this is something that we're talking about. In my 20s, when I was in corporate America, I did save. And what I did is, you always should pay yourself something first. It doesn't matter how much money you make. You could be making a very low income. One, you still need to live within your means, whatever that is. And once you figure that out, then you need to come up with a small amount. It doesn't matter what it is that you will be willing to give to yourself, whether it's $50, $25, $100. If your budget is larger and you could do a couple $100 or $1,000, then do it. And what I did in my 20s, because of course your income might be a little less when you're starting out and you're younger, you're growing and building those skills so that you can get the higher income. So something that I did was I opened up an account with a bank that is not in my local area. Then I directed my employer to pay that out of my paycheck each month, pay a certain amount of money into that account. And so it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about it. And I was glad that I did that, because before 2015, and I would say this was in maybe 2006, 2007, when I was transitioning from my first job out of college to my second job out of college, there was a period where I didn't have a job, but because I had that directed money to another account, I had some savings that was out of sight, out of mind, that I was able to tap into until I found my next job. So, and because it was a bank, and I say make it a bank that's not in your local area. One, is inconvenient for me to drive to that, which was in Columbia, South Carolina. I went to college in Columbia, South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. If any Gamecocks are out there, we were national champions this year. But because it was in Columbia, South Carolina, it would be an inconvenience for me to drive 45 minutes to that bank. I'm a little old school. I don't even have on my cell phone. I do not have on my cell phone mobile banking apps and all of that. So it wasn't going to be I'm going to call this bank up, try to get me a transfer or whatever. It was a driving down to this bank. I didn't even have a debit card to the bank. So I didn't want to have easy access. I made it so that it was an inconvenience for me to access that money. So if I needed that money, then I had to go through a lot of steps in order to gain access to that money. And so I would recommend, if you're in your 20s and you are in a place to where you can save, doesn't matter what it is, because compounding money builds up over time, and especially if you can get it into an account that can grow some compounding type interest or whatever. You need to talk to your banker about that, but getting it, make it inconvenient to you to access that money. Yes, it's your money and you can get it when you need it. But that was something that I did in my 20s, and that helped me. And then another thing that I also, just want to say is set a goal, like how you were saying, buying earrings and a shirt one day, and now my goal is to buy a house the next day. Buying a house, yes, there are, different programs and different things out there that you might be able to tap into, to utilize to buy. But there are times when you may not be able to utilize that money because the seller says they don't want to accept down payment assistance or whatever the case might be. And you might look at that as being unfair to the transaction. That's their house. They can choose what type of financing that they think is going to be the easiest, least resistance to close, and who's going to be able to close the fastest. And sometimes when you use down payment assistance, there are other obstacles that have to be accomplished and overcome in order for you to be able to close. So having that money saved and having a goal, if you know that you need to save $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, you need to come up with a plan of attack and say, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And then once I get here, this is how it's going to be. But when you make it inconvenient for you to access that money, when you get that friend that calls you and says, hey, can I borrow X amount of dollars? You got to jump through so many hoops to get to that money to give to them when you really don't have that excess money. It's going to be easy for you to say, no, I don't have it. Yeah. Even though
it's not in my budget. That's
right.
You
actually have it, but it's just too many obstacles for you to go to. And then another thing that I would also say to young people.
She ain't never told me no, y'all.
No, you got to know, wait a minute. You got to know
I'm being funny.
Which friends
I
you
know.
can lend money to. That's
because I've been that friend before.
Exactly. And don't co-sign for any and everybody.
That part.
You know, we as young women sometimes will, date some young guys that, don't have their selves together financially. And then they're asking us to help co-sign things for them. Do not do that. One, don't date a dude that don't have his finances in order.
Candace, you getting way off topic now. Jumping, you're gonna have to bring her back in. You know how she get. You know she be laughing all over.
You know me on that topic. I'm sitting here like,
you're gonna have to bring her back in. Like, now, what was the question again?
Right, we have to bring you back on that. It's funny. We going into relationships. We'll bring you back on that. But I feel you. You know, it's like I said, it's so many layers to financial literacy, basics. But she's tapping into so many because it's true. The key in life, we got to start somewhere, and finance is a foundation. Period.
That's right.
It's true. So I really appreciate you both coming on here, sharing, and you can see why I brought them on here. They have full energy, full knowledge, genuine souls that just have a story, as we all do. So continue to live your story, tap into your own reservoir within, and trust the journey. Notice none of us, or they didn't give you what to do, because you have your own journey and your own path. They're telling you what they did and remind you that the power is within you. So we're here. If you want to join the journey, subscribe. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to hit subscribe below as we continue to drop F-bombs throughout life around faith, family, fashion, food, fitness, and finance. And as always, stay true.